call the Ordinance Committee meeting of May 10th to order, and if we could start with a roll call.
Councilmember Jordan?
Here.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez? Chair Sneddon?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any changes to the agenda or public comment for items not on the agenda?
Chair Sneddon, no. Nobody has logged in for items not on the agenda.
Thank you. With that, we'll invite staff presentation.
Good afternoon. My name's Derek Bailey, and I'm with the city's Public Works Department in the Traffic Engineering Group. And our topic today is the conversion of the 400 block of Anacapa Street from a one-way street to a two-way street. And on the screen in front of you is the recommendation that's written in the staff report, but essentially it's removing the 400 block of Anacapa Street from the schedule of one-way streets in the municipal code. And by doing that, once proper signs and pavement markings are installed, it reverts back to a two-way street. So just for some background, I'm going to show you a map in a second that'll illustrate this a little bit better, but on the east part of our downtown, the way the one-way streets come together, it creates some concentrated traffic through the State Street and Gutierrez Street intersection, and converting the 400 block of Anacapa Street would improve circulation options in that area. And this project is listed in the city's 5-year CIP. So here's a map of the area we're talking about. So just to orient you, Highway 101, Gutierrez Street, Haley Street. We have State Street, and my cursor's hovering over, then Anacapa Street, which is a one-way down towards the beach, and then Santa Barbara Street. Gutierrez Street is a one-way street westbound, and there's that short dead-end street, the end of Anacapa Street between Gutierrez and the freeway, and the only way for traffic to exit that street is to come back out onto Gutierrez. So you can see with these three streets coming together, and one-way Gutierrez forces everybody towards State Street, and we get this concentration of traffic at the State Street and Gutierrez Street intersection. Now, based on the traffic studies that we've done, we know that there's about 500 to 600 drivers per day that would like to get to Haley Street. And as you can see, for them to do that now requires them to circulate around on State Street. There is a safety component to this as well. This heat map that we've got shown on the screen is a map of concentration of collisions in Santa Barbara that result in severe fatal injuries. And you can see Lower State Street is one of our hot spots in the city. So to the extent we can reduce traffic, it reduces conflicts and likely reduces collisions. So back to this slide right here that just shows what 500 to 600 drivers today are doing to get to Haley Street. If we convert that 400 block of Anacapa Street to two-way, you can see it's much easier for them to access Haley Street, and it relieves some of that burden on Lower State Street. As part of our study, we did a traffic analysis, and we looked at the existing traffic volumes. Southbound Anacapa Street has about 3,800 per day. The new northbound traffic will be 500 to 600 per day, conservatively about 600, so the total traffic will be about 4,400. And just to illustrate that, there's 3,800 going southbound on that block. The new traffic would be about 600 going northbound for a total of about 4,400. The additional traffic going northbound, 600 per day, what that kind of works out to and feels like during the peak hours, about 1 per minute. Also part of our traffic analysis, we look at vehicle miles traveled. And so that's just the total amount of driving, all added together, all drivers added together. And for this project, there would actually be a reduction in vehicle miles traveled, about 114 fewer vehicle miles traveled per day. And that's good for the environment. Why are we bringing this to you now? In order to make this change to the 400 block, it would require changes to the pavement markings, signs, and the traffic signal at Haley Street and Anacapa so that it's configured to set up traffic coming from both directions, northbound and southbound. There is an upcoming pavement maintenance project later this fall. And by implementing this project as part of that, the cost would be about $11,000. If we did this as a standalone project, it would likely be well in excess of $100,000. So if we're going to do this, now is the most cost-effective time to do it. As far as public engagement, prior to adding this to the 5-year CIP, we hosted a public meeting in 2016. More recently, as we started getting ready for this pavement maintenance project coming up this fall, we held a public meeting on February 9th. February 24th, this item went to the Transportation Circulation Committee, who recommended that council approve the project. When we held the public meetings, we did hear concerns from the people that live on the 400 block of Anacapa Street. General sense we got from is they opposed the change due to the increased traffic volumes. And even though there was some opposition to the change from the residents on the 400 block, as staff, we are still recommending this conversion. And the reason is Anacapa and State Street are both arterial streets of citywide importance, and improved circulation and safety benefits the entire community. So as this relates to the 400 block of State Street, the change on Anacapa Street could facilitate changes to the 400 block of State Street as well. This would slightly relieve some of the traffic burden of the 400 block of State Street. And we know there is an interest in closing State Street, the 400 block of State Street, similar to the promenade to the north. Obviously, that block has been a little bit more complicated to address just because of public safety needs and access for public safety to get back and forth across the freeway. That's a really important block for them. So as far as this 400 block of Anacapa Street affecting the 400 block of State Street, that's really going to be addressed as part of the State Street master planning effort. And that really just, again, needs to address the needs of public safety. If Gutierrez, and part of the proposal was considering Gutierrez Street becoming a two-way street in order to relieve some of that burden on the 400 block of State Street. If that were to be deemed feasible and public safety's needs could be addressed, it would likely result in additional traffic above and beyond that 500 to 600 a day that we'll be doing as part of this effort. And so that would require a public process of its own just to engage the community about that. As far as the implementation of the change, it would be implemented with the pavement maintenance project that we're calling FY22B. This afternoon, you're going to be presented with the award of a contract for the FY22A pavement maintenance. That's the slurry seal project. The B project is going to be the grind and overlay project. So that's going to include Haley Street and that lower section of Anacapa. We expect that would be in July, and construction would be this winter, and implementation would likely be in early 2023. And again, our recommendation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Jordan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the concern on the 400 block from the residents, you said the science number was 1 per minute roughly going north, right? So if you're like off by 100%, it's 2 per minute, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, so pretty, in your world, a pretty inconsequential number, right?
That's correct, and it is an average, so
Okay.
some minutes there
And
may be a
right-
couple go through, and then you may go
Right.
5 minutes without, but
And so I frequently am on that all the way down to there too, heading one direction home. But right now, even they only have the choice of going towards the ocean when they pull out of their place, even if they're going to Milpas, and they'd have the option of going the other way now. And frequently that intersection, because if not everybody turns from the right-hand turn lane left on Haley but goes straight, you frequently have 2 lanes loading by the time you get down to that stop sign, and everything is backed up 10 cars, right? So I mean, there are some like modular, modern residences down there on the left as you're going down the street. I mean, I could see where sometimes those people would have trouble getting out of their driveway the way it is now, right? Okay.
That's correct. So this would
And-
provide them with an additional outlet to their neighborhood.
And then since you've been out there a lot, so and first, no stop signs or anything, right? The intersection will still be going, just everybody go when they can, right? And then when I get to that intersection at Gutierrez, and I'm going to turn right and say, wind back around and go back under the freeway at Castillo or go down to the base of State Street that way, that seems to me to be, if you're turning right there, seems to me to be a blind spot looking left. Like there's always, like you always have to get out in that intersection to see left because the parking is too close to the, in my vision, too close to the intersection. Have we looked at that and agree, disagree? Can we lose a parking space there to see some more?
Yeah, great question. We actually just recently added some red curb on both sides of Gutierrez Street at that intersection to improve sightlines. Especially in the downtown area, we're very sensitive to parking supply.
Yep.
So we're removing it in small increments till we
Okay.
get to a place that
But it
seems
is
reasonable.
literally a blind intersection unless you put the front half of your vehicle out into that right-hand lane. I mean,
Yes.
but, right, so you
Agreed.
get that. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we go back to slide 22, please? Could you just reiterate what you went over in this slide, just because I want to make sure I fully understand?
Yes, thank you. And I realize I might not have been as clear as I should have been. By converting the 400 block of Anacapa Street from one-way to two-way, it's going to take some of the traffic off of the 400 block of State Street. So that in itself is a good thing for State Street and a good thing for safety. As far as the whether or not this change could facilitate closing the 400 block of State Street, in concert with making Gutierrez Street a two-way street, it could help facilitate it. So if you can, and again, a traffic study and a community process would need to happen. But if you can imagine coming up State Street from the beach and being able to turn right onto Gutierrez and then left onto Anacapa Street to get to Haley Street, whereas right now, everybody just goes up State Street to Haley Street and makes that right-hand turn. So that's how it could potentially facilitate changes to that 400 block. Is that,
Yeah, that makes sense.
thank you.
I'm just wondering, when it comes to issuing the study to see the effects of changing the direction of Gutierrez or Haley, when do you think that could possibly happen?
There's two components to it. One is the city traffic model is being updated right now. And that's a really important thing that has to happen because that model projects future traffic volumes 20, 30 years down the road. It takes into account things like the freeway widening, takes things into account land use changes, additional people living downtown. So that's going to tell us what the demand on our circulation system is going to be 20, 30 years down the road. So that's one thing. That information is going to feed into the State Street master planning process. And I'm going to have to check with the team during what stage of that master planning process they think that this particular information is going to be analyzed. And I'll have to get back to you on that. But it will be part of the State Street master planning process.
Would it be possible to have that information ready by the time this gets to council, this item?
The award of construction,
No, the possible information on how to conduct the study for whether or not the changing directions of Haley and Gutierrez could affect the 400 block.
yes, at which point would, at which engagement with council would that be?
I was wondering if you could have that information ready by the time this item comes to the rest of council.
Oh, in 2 weeks?
Correct.
Very unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. The State Street master planning process doesn't even have a consultant on board yet, which will be doing some of that analysis.
Okay, so you believe that it'd be better to consolidate that item with that greater plan as opposed to just trying to tack it onto this one?
Yes, and the reason is it's a complex item, and the basic information, which is the information that's going to come out of the traffic model, which looks at traffic volumes into the future, that's not even finished yet. So that has to be finished first, and then the information can be fed to the consultant that's going to be doing the State Street master planning process. So it is complex. It's using tools that we don't have available to us in the city, so we do rely on consultants for that work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any members from the public for public comment?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. I think with that, if we have any comments at this time. Councilmember Jordan?
I'll just move staff recommendation. It's a great start to that part of the bottom of State Street. I think it'll be great.
I'll second.
Thank you.
And just want to thank city staff for basically being on your toes and doing your job well and being able to notice these issues and coming up with solutions. And yeah, hopefully we can try to get a study done to see how changing traffic in that area could benefit the 400 block. Thank you.
And I'll add that I really appreciate the consideration of vehicle miles traveled. I think that's a big part of our circulation patterns is people circulating and continuing to running cars. And I really support that the improved circulation and safety benefits was one of the reasons for bringing this forward, but also it's such a hassle there. So it's really welcome change right there, and appreciated the update also on how it'll be integrated into the State Street master planning or downtown master planning. So I think we are ready for a vote.
So the Ordinance Committee is going to forward the recommendation, staff recommendation to council, moved by Councilmember Jordan, seconded by Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez. Councilmember Jordan.
Yes.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez.
Aye.
And Chair Sneddon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.